So Endless Toil, it's not actually, I'm not actually known as Endless Toil, so don't like shout it across the street or anything, but as we said, my recent exhibition at the viewing room in Commune was called Endless Toil, and it really fit well with the month's theme of the end, but also completely went against it in a way, because I just want to discuss the concept of there being no end, and just to go against that idea of an ending and present this idea that just to embrace the journey and don't have the end in sights in a way, and endings being beginnings. So this is the picture that we've just given to Rich, actually. A drawing that I made a few years ago, and it's just resonated with so many people. So it's sequential. It's a sequential comic book kind of thing. Some people have picked, kind of said to me, "Oh, that one with the 3 skeletons is really good." I'm like, "No, it's not 3 skeletons. It's 1 skeleton." It's good. It's good that you like it, but it's a narrative thing. Just giving this idea that. So I had a tagline that went with it. Was that whether you're a half full or a half empty kind of person, and your attitude is half full or half empty, it's still reassuring to know that. Good things can pop up to surprise you even after the last drop is gone. So it's this character who's wants to drink, basically wants to be refreshed, whether they want to also get some kind of alcoholic stimulant. It's not specified that what's in the bottle, but they want to drink basically. They can't get refreshed, but actually what's happening at their feet is that they're creating a friend or creating a loved one, and it pops up to surprise them in this kind of narrative structure with the sun, I suppose, helping things to move along at the top and helping the flower grow and all this, and just this idea of the end of that bottle of water becoming a new beginning and a new chapter for this character, and I just wanted to leave these characters open, not give them genders, not give them any background, and it's just something that resonated with a lot of people, I think, so it's good. Oh yeah, and then, so things were kind of fitting together with the title of the end and my exhibition that was Endless Toil, but then I actually remembered that my degree show for Fine Art Sheffield Hallam was also called The End, which was something I had to be reminded because it seems so long ago now. So I graduated in 2006 from Salter Lane campus with Sheffield Hallam in fine art, something that I've kind of moved into more of an illustration practice now. But I think it's interesting to have, I've always come from a different angle from people with illustration background, I think, having that way of thinking of things with more of a concept through fine art, I think. And our degree show was the last degree show at Salter Lane campus. So it was like the end of our course. It was the end of it was the end of the building, basically. So this is the Salter Lane building, which got knocked down and made into like a new housing complex. And then, is there like a delay on these?
I think you should just do it. I think you have to press down.
Oh, down, right. So this was the first page I think we thought it was really cool at the time because the exhibition actually ended on 666. And oh, it's just not doing it for me. Yeah, so my work was a lot different. We kind of got this, there was a general feeling of what the tutors expected of you on a conceptual art, fine art course at the time. So I was kind of steered away from, I arrived at the course as a painter and drawer, and kind of was kind of urged to look at other ways of getting ideas across, I suppose, and ended up doing a lot of creative writing. I actually really pushed to shoehorn these biro drawings into my final project, just because I still wanted to have some kind of mark making involved. But it was all concept based, and I'd based a lot of things around a band that I was really into at the time called Can, a German progressive band from the 70s onwards. And I'd read something from Brian Eno actually about any sort of discourse or research into Can would be ultimately detrimental to the enjoyment of their music. It was kind of, the less you know, then the more you might enjoy this thing. So I kind of wrote a book about Can without mentioning what Can was, and then I redrew Google Images searches for pictures of Can. So this boxer dog, for some reason, was a picture of Can and stuff like that. Oh. Yeah. Oh, so also it's Tom Newell without the Tom J. Newell, and complete with the 2006 embarrassing Hotmail account. Twisted Super Monster was perhaps something that I thought was a good idea at the time. I don't know, but and then by the time I came to actually get Tom Newell as a domain name or as a Hotmail, then it was kind of gone, and this guy had tomnewell.com, so that was just in a quick panic. I was like, oh, I'll just put my middle initial in there, and then Tom J. Newell has just from a spur of the moment thing has become kind of my name, my brand, and yeah, so that's another Tom Newell. So this was from 2006. It only has the middle initial because I uploaded it afterwards. This is on YouTube. I kind of didn't want to show it right now, but you can look it up afterwards. It's my degree show piece from the end show. So Damo Suzuki was a vocalist in Can. He had a project at the time. His network, Damo Suzuki's network, are constantly touring. They still tour now. Well, just him. And he goes to different cities and recruits like a group of musicians who can contact him, and just plays with whichever musicians he meets in different towns. So my idea was to make an extended network where I got people involved who weren't musicians and got them to play with a projection of him. So I actually played with him a couple of times, and then I filmed him doing an a cappella vocal performance, and I projected him doing this onto a screen, and then had someone perform in front of it and filmed that, and then projected that, and then had someone else in front of it. So you get these kind of ghostly figures going back and back, and the kind of sound qualities going back into the mix. Eventually he's lost, and I think it's about 5-minute video, but it kind of fades out with more and more people coming in, So it's got that endless quality, and it's an idea that this thing is maybe still going somewhere. So that was the kind of conceptual stuff I was working on through my uni course, which is this idea that the beat goes on, the music keeps going, ideas carry on. So I moved away. I was always doing kind of illustrative stuff for like making gig posters for friends' bands I was in myself, but it was always completely separate to my fine art practice. When I found myself outside of the sort of bubble that you end up in during a university course, I found it difficult. I'd done like a few pitches for funding for projects that didn't happen, and people were asking me for more gig posters, and it just eventually found itself happening that I was doing more illustrative stuff, but trying to get concepts into the illustrations. And then this 2016, I was invited to paint one of the elephants for the herd of Sheffield, which ended up on the roof in the beer garden of Great Gatsby. Some of these elephants, I mean, they were all sold at auction. Some of them even went overseas, I think. There's not many that are still available to see for the public, so it's great that this one, the beat does go on for this one, and it can be seen in Sheffield by anyone that goes past. I had like a concept relating to Sheffield. Again, the concepts just will not be seen by the person that's passing it in the street. I had this idea that the legs, the foundations of Sheffield were cast from steel. So you got this idea, maybe they're like a knight's armor, or I tried to give it an impression that these legs were made of steel. So that's the industry holding up all this kind of decorative culture, I guess, and I suppose the new industry might come from students and music. So it's this idea that something is coming out of those foundations, and the beat goes on. I mean, it's an old song, but the one I knew it from was a 90s Sheffield dance remix by the All Seeing Eye. So you got this All Seeing Eye record as part of the design. The All Seeing Eye was something I was using anyway, but it all seemed to fit together in this piece. And then this was one of the pieces I did while we were planning the elephant and sketchbooks. So this is a Pink Pig sketchbook. We were based in Barnsley, I think, a company. And I think I bought one, and then I posted a photo online, and they said, oh, we're looking for like ambassadors for sketchbooks, so we can send you some free sketchbooks. I was using Posca pens to work in them. I contacted them, they said, we'll send you some free pens. So, and then the format of the square little sketchbook just fitted straight into Instagram. So whatever I was doing on these things, I'd just post straight up and get an instant reaction. It was really good. And I've also got like a pile of blank sketchbooks that they've sent me that I could never possibly think about ever completing. So it is this like endless toil through these blank pages now. I did ask for brown paper because I've always found that less daunting to have something that's not a blank white page. So you can kind of come at it with white pens, black pens, and it's just less of a daunting prospect to fill something that's not white, I've always found. And I kind of worked through these and tried to put like so this was a pink pig sketchbook with Posca pens, and it's a pink Pepe with a peace sign. So it's just posting the picture, but more peas, but also having a little caption for it. So I kind of drew this thing that ended up looking like ET, and then he's kind of lighting the cigarette with his glowing finger, and I put what is ET short for? Because smoking stunts your growth. Which it's kind of when you get that relationship of the caption and the image, and it ties things together. Other things were this was based on a Jack Kirby piece, a comic artist that I really like, but it's just kind of the thing with Posca pens is you kind of get this fixed palette of the colours that they make, which someone that's so used to just using black and white, it's kind of eases you into using colour, which is like, okay, I can use colour, but these are the only colours that I can use. So I kind of got stuck with this pink on some things. This is a character from an amazing cartoon called Over the Garden Wall. It's on Netflix. I'd really recommend that. Another thing, I think that was like a tiny piece of a Frank Frazetta painting. So yeah, I think I try to credit wherever I can in the comments where things have come from, because they often are inspired by something that I see. This was my wife on our recent holiday to New York, drinking a massive Big Gulp, which was the medium-sized Big Gulp, and there were 2 other sizes above that. This one, I kind of drew this. I've had a weird relationship with people that make money from drawing other people's characters, so it doesn't sit quite well, but I think this being sketchbook stuff, I kind of let myself, because I've always practiced, but I started drawing Dennis the Menace, Beano characters, Garfield. I've always practiced drawing through drawing existing characters. It's a strange one now that people do actually make money from kind of drawing The Simpsons, SpongeBob, stuff like that. So I drew this. I guess I would never sell a print of SpongeBob unless I gave the money to charity, because it's not my character basically. But I drew this, and there's a toy company from Japan who got in touch with me and said, we actually work with Nickelodeon. We really love your drawing of SpongeBob. Would you like to have it made into a toy, a collectible toy? So that's actually happened, and this is going to be coming out in. This has been like a year-long process, so I'm still not sure when it comes out. But I worked with an amazing sculptor who I just sent that last sketchbook piece to, and he, with my concept for the design, he came up with this. So the concept is that this is the same toy, but it's the front and back, and the feet swizzle round, so you can have it like a tragedy or comedy, whichever way you want, on your desk. And yeah, it's been really good to work with this toy company, because my concept was also that I wanted it black and white to reflect my black and white work, and they were like, oh, we don't think Nickelodeon's going to go for it. We think they're going to just have it in the regular SpongeBob colours, which I was like, that's fine. Anything's fine. We're kind of trying to act cool, but also like, whoa, I'm getting a toy made. But then they came back and were like, we can't believe it, but they're going to go for it as black and white. So, and then I worked with them on making the packaging. I was like, I've got this idea. I don't want it to be like a typical packaging. I think the merchandise of SpongeBob is always, I've always been inspired by it. They seem to have such a handle on what gets made, and there's nothing so if there's a t-shirt of SpongeBob, it won't be a picture of SpongeBob. The t-shirt itself will be SpongeBob. So I wanted the box to actually be him. So I guess you get the toy out, and then you've also got this box that's an object in itself. And again, I sent this idea, and they were like, yeah, Nickelodeon are probably going to color it all in. They're probably going to put logos all over it. And they were like, don't be surprised if it comes back like pretty unrecognizable. And I was like, yeah, that's fine. Play it cool. But then it came back, and they were like, we can't believe it, but they've just okayed it. They've pretty much okayed it all, and it's come back like this, and this is how it's going to be made. It's got the proper logo on there, Nickelodeon. It's got Steven Hillenburg's signature on there, which is just an honor because he kind of passed away last year as well. So I guess the crying SpongeBob is a reference to that in a way as well. So it's been great to see how this has happened. This was a piece that I made for the Endless Toil show. Sort of a statement about that idea of drawing other people's characters. It was called Rock Bottom, as a reference to Bikini Bottom, where SpongeBob is from, and kind of that idea of the creative mind hitting rock bottom when you can't think of anything to draw except a recognizable cartoon character, I suppose. So kind of ridiculing myself in a way, but I'd also got this confirmation of working with them through official lines and stuff like that. But yeah, it's also like a graffiti tradition. I've always been inspired by graffiti and hip hop culture to just completely use, it's like sampling culture, I guess. So you sample music without getting official rights. Graffiti writers would use characters, Garfield, Snoopy and stuff, without getting clearance, obviously, and just putting it out there. These pieces were, they're two wooden boards that are like 1 meter square each. And I was also playing with the relationships between the 3 elements in each one. You kind of got this word that doesn't quite fit. So you got love, but then he's sad. And then there's this other character who's died or been killed. And it's like, and then you start to create a narrative between those 3 things. Like, why is this guy, what's the hate and why is he happy and what's happened to that guy? So it's kind of leaving things open, and but the Endless Toil show did have a concept that I wanted people to have in the back of the mind, I guess, but just bring their own stuff to it. And yeah, I kind of came up with this: celebrate the suffering of our everyday existence, embrace the struggle, and find beauty in life's relentless drudgery. And it's this idea again of I get to things late, so I'd only just in the past few months started listening to podcasts, and kind of listening to positive podcasts. And it's this idea that I got. He's like a ultra marathon runner called David Goggins. He's worth looking up. He's an interesting character. He's like an ex-Navy SEAL. He holds the world record for pull-ups, where he did like 5,000 pull-ups and his bone popped out of his arm and he carried on doing them. He's just insane guy. But it's good. Inspiration comes from totally different sources. I like it when inspiration doesn't necessarily come from other people's artwork. So I'm kind of inspired by this crazy guy who just runs for far too long and does pull-ups for far too long. But he's got these ideas, like he says people shouldn't be focused on this idea of getting to the top of a hill and just watching the sunset in your retirement, because that might not happen for everyone. And you shouldn't really be focused on that moment, because once you get there, chances are you're going to be bored. What comes next? It's like all this pressure of coming to that one moment of an ending, and it's just more about embracing the journey. I guess heading towards the light at the end of the tunnel, but you've kind of missed. There might have been cracks in the tunnel that were shining through. You could bring out a light in yourself while you're in the tunnel. Just this concept of embracing the moment, not living for the weekend, which is a massive thing in our culture. You kind of waste away the whole week, and then it's just living for the weekend. It can be like a detrimental thing, I think. And these were the four main pieces from the show. Again, it's like I wanted people to just see them as imagery, not necessarily put too much onto them if they didn't want to. But they did have a lot of meaning for me. This one was called Forget Me Not, and kind of based around our relationship with the earth, with like plant life, maybe things that would remind us of lost ones. The next one was Plenty More Fish, so that was kind of our relationship with I guess maybe providing for our family, providing for our friends from our relationship with animals, with fish, with other people, earth, water, air, and fire. The next one was called Swan Song, so it's this idea of our relationship with death and I think like recorded sound. So this is meant to be like a swan that is like a stuffed taxidermy swan or a dead swan, but it's got this recorded sound, whether it's written or whether this is like a sound piece that's been recorded. If anyone can read music as well, the notes are D-E-A-D. Which was something that I'd hid in there, and I didn't put anything about that in the exhibition. It was just like, oh, if someone sees the piece who can read music, maybe they'll see that, maybe they won't. The fourth one was something really special because my wife and I are expecting our first baby in September, and this was an idea. It's called Pass the Torch, and just an idea of flipping this idea that you will pass the torch to your loved ones. This could be a baby, it could be a pet cat or whatever, but it's the idea that the little thing that you're caring for is going to pass the torch to you. It's going to reignite your passion. You're going to learn more from them than you can probably teach them. So it's just that role reversal I was really interested in. Pardon? Okay, yeah. I'll just skip through these. These were like bigger versions, just to give you a better look at each thing. These were where they came from. I worked in a slightly different way for this exhibition because I had these little thumbnails. These are maybe postcard size, but I had these knocking around on the desk for months actually, and it was just a process. Like the horse never actually made the final cut, and the king didn't either, but it was just this process of me becoming acquainted with these images, I suppose. In the same way of like working with a SpongeBob character, it's just I needed to get these things ingrained in my brain. So I'd seen this character on my desk for months before it ended up in the final piece. So I think that's a way of me becoming acquainted and finding a relationship with the pieces. And they would be worked up from a small piece. I would put it through a scanner photocopier, make it a bit bigger, stretch it out, change the composition, to develop things like that. And then the weird thing with this one is I was looking through my phone pictures after I'd finished it, and I found this from like 2 weeks before. I'd saved this image on my phone and just immediately recognized where it had come from. And it wasn't a case of me having this sat next to the paper and drawing from it. It was that had been in my head somewhere and it had come out as that. Which was it's really interesting to see how this inspiration can kind of stay with you. And I guess that's sometimes where accidental plagiarism can come from, is like not knowing that you've regurgitated this stuff sometimes. And then at the end of the Endless Toil exhibition, I kind of wanted people to carry the exhibition on, so it didn't have an end. So I kind of made these products with a few different makers, like Hunk Print and Grey Suit Clay. And it's just this idea of carrying on the exhibition into people's everyday life. And things carrying on, things progressing, things moving into different things, positivity coming from negative situations. Sarah Nolte was an amazing person. I'm sure a lot of you have had dealings with her through the creative industry in the city. When I heard of her passing, I drew this up. It was quite late. It was like the middle of the night. I got a text. I'd seen the hashtag "Be More Like Nolte," and I just wanted to pay my respects, put a post up online. So I drew this thing in a heart. It eventually, they kind of edited it down to "Be More Nolte." I kind of preferred the sentiment of this because there was two ways of reading it. It was like, be more like Nolte, because she was more than the average person, I guess. Her partner, Christy, came up with the phrase. But it's amazing to see what this image has become. And I was getting a lot of requests to use it, and I kind of had the idea in my head that it's just not mine. I was just like, I sent out loads of like high quality files of it, and I just said it's not mine, basically. Like, I don't even want my name put to it. Just use it if you want to. And now it's had like a Pride redesign for this year. It's like it appears on the stages at tram lines. So it's great to see how this image has moved on, and how it's a positive force from such a sad occurrence, really, which is a similar thing to what we've done. My friend Simon Moforth had a ridiculous nickname called Dr. Chop. He was the lead guitarist in my old band, the Caroline Show Band, and we have held a festival in his honor for the past 5 years. He lived in Taiwan, so we have these joint events that happen in Taiwan and in Sheffield called Chop Fest. This is happening at the food hall on Saturday, actually. I'm going to give it a big plug. Tickets are £5, and we have some of the best bands that we think are in Sheffield right now. We work with Delicious Clam, who are just down there near the Wilcos. And all the money goes to Delicious Clam and to Food Hall, two things that we think Simon would have been really, really happy with, because his relationship with homeless people, he once gave his shoes to a homeless guy and walked home in barefoot. So that's the fact that the money is going to be going to Food Hall, which do so much good stuff, we think he'd appreciate, and to Delicious Clam, who kind of nurture new bands in Sheffield. It's a really positive thing. So hope, I guess, is Hope is Strong. This was a piece I was asked to do for the Hope is Strong exhibition at Millennium Gallery and Weston Park. For their opening event, we had some people doing live drawing, and And yeah, I just had this idea of this. I think the film Black Panther was out at the same time as well. So that film was having a really positive effect in the media. So I had this kind of Black Panther character. This was based. There's like a Russian. I think Franz Ferdinand used it as well. There's like a woman who's shouting out this text. So that was kind of based on that as well. Oh yeah, I just snuck this in because of kind of recent Eton schoolboy occurrences, and this is something recent that I've done for Sleaford Mods, where they're playing a big show at Hammersmith Apollo. They've actually got Stuart Lee supporting them as well at the gig, so it should be really good. And because their latest album was called Eton Alive, like E-T-O-N, Alive, and it's this idea that they've been consumed by these public schoolboy lizards, and who are kind of feeding off the blood of the city, kind of dripping into their glasses there. And I guess the message to go away with is just to shine on, and yeah, just look for the light within you instead of heading towards the light at the end of the tunnel, I suppose.